What can what can the New York prosecutors learn once they get a hold of Trump's tax returns? A Manhattan District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr. has fought for over a year and a half to get access to the former squatter Donald Trump's tax returns. Now, thanks to a U.S. Supreme Court ruling, he will soon have them. But what will that mean for the Democrats' grand jury investigation into Trump's business affairs? The former prosecutors say that the trove of records could give investigators new tools to determine whether Trump lied. Well, it's not to determine whether he did lie. He did lie anyway because he lies about everything. So about whether Trump lied to lenders or tax officials before or after he started squatting in the White House. Prosecutors look for discrepancies in paperwork, and for example, if Trump told the IRS he's broke and lenders that he's rich, that's just the type of discrepancy they could build a case around, said Duncan Levin, who's a former federal prosecutor who worked on a wide range of white-collar cases as Vance's chief of asset forfeiture. These documents are a very important piece of the jigsaw puzzle, Levin said. Whether Trump's records will contain evidence of a crime is uncertain. More than likely they will. The former squatter, a Republican, has argued for years that he broke no laws, which he actually, which well, he claims he's argued for laws that he broke no laws, but he has, and he has been unfairly targeted by Democrats for political reasons. That's not the case. But here's a look at where the tax records might be helpful, and where they might help much, but in the district attorney's investigation. And it's more than just returns anyway. But Trump went to extraordinary lengths to keep his federal income tax returns from becoming public. But those aren't the only valuable documents included in this haul. Trump's accounting firm, Mazars USA, is supposed to turn over not only the final versions of Trump's tax returns, but also draft versions of those returns and any and all statements of financial condition, annual statements, periodic financial reports, and independent auditors' reports that were held by the company. The Mazars subpoenas also sought engagement agreements that define the accountant's role in creating the tax returns and financial statements and source documents, providing the accountants with raw financial data and work papers and communications between the firm and Trump representatives. But those would include communications showing how the raw data was analyzed and treated in the preparation of the records. Um, that could give the state prosecutors an open book into Trump's finances, said Adam D. Citron, who's a former state prosecutor and partner at Davidoff, Hutcher, and Citron. It's really the kitchen sink. Examining those other documents could be key to determining whether Trump or his companies gave tax authorities different information about his income than they presented to other officials like banks and business partners. Like also the hush money that he paid to Stormy Daniels. Um, when the district attorney's investigation first began, one of the initial subpoenas that was sent to the Trump organization asked for information about hush payments that Trump's former lawyer Michael Cohen had arranged to women who had claimed to have had a sexual affair with Trump. I said, that guy's so fucking ugly. Who the fuck would want to fuck his fat ass? Conan has said that Trump's company later reimbursed him for one of those payments to the adult film actress Stormy Daniels, disguising it in the form of a legal fee. It isn't clear, though, whether Trump's tax records will add much to that part of the probe, but the New York Times, which obtained years of Trump's tax return data, had wrote that it contained no new revelations about the payment to Daniels, and it didn't include any itemized payments to Cohen. Also, tax breaks. The district attorney's the district attorney's office has been investigating some of the arrangements that Trump made to reduce his tax bill. Data in the returns could be essential in analyzing whether any of those maneuvers had crossed legal lines. One of the breaks under scrutiny is the one that Trump got for donating part of his Seven Springs estate, which is north of New York City, to a conservation trust. And some experts have questioned whether Trump overhauled the land to get a bigger break than he deserved. Investigators have already subpoenaed and received many documents related to the land deal, but Trump benefited from a similar conversation donation in California. Also, statements to lenders. Vance's office hasn't disclosed the full nature of its inquiry, but in court filings, prosecutors have pointed to a news article that questioned whether Trump had chronically exaggerated the value of his assets to banks and insurance companies. The Associated Press reported last month that Vance's office recently interviewed Cohen for hours, asking him, among other things, about Trump's relationship with Deutsche Bank, his biggest and longest-standing creditor. One Washington Post story cited by prosecutors detailed how various Trump organizations and financial disclosures inflated the number of home lots for sale at a California golf course. The acreage the acreage at one of his vineyards and the number of stories in Trump Tower, while excluding information about debts at his Chicago and Las Vegas hotel projects. Tax records will only be one tool prosecutors will use to examine whether any of the statements amounted to fraud. And they're going to look at valuations and property values, Citron said of state prosecutors. They'll look at the billings of attorneys to see what their expenses paid for. Monday's ruling does not ensure the public will see Trump's financial records for now. They are protected by grand jury secrecy rules. But even if charges are brought in the case, these documents likely would be heavily redacted if filed in the court. And even then, I'm sure there'll be tons of litigations about that, Citron said.